All right, so today I wanted to talk about Jon Jones. He had a really big victory in UFC 309 against Stipe. Of course, as usual, I did not watch the actual fight. I'm not spending $80 or whatever it is on that, but I know that he did that big spinning back kick. I did see that. That was pretty fun to look at. More importantly to this video though, over the past week with the embedded documentaries and just seeing interviews and press conferences, seems like a lot of people are upset with Jon Jones for ducking Tom Aspinall. That's going to be the conversation of this video. I want to actually talk about Jon Jones and if he is actually ducking Tom Aspinall, if that's a fair conclusion to come to. This is not going to be scientific at all. I'm literally just going to be talking off the top of my head from what I've seen and what I've heard. Overall, I'm just going to yap a bit about Jon Jones and Tom and my thoughts on the whole situation. So let's get into it. So why are people saying that Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall? Well, Jon Jones, before this previous fight, last fought, I think in like March of 2023, which was a 3-year layover already from his previous fight before that. Not a big deal though. Anyway, March 2023, he fought Ciryl Gane. He beat him to win the heavyweight title. Then he was supposed to fight in November of that year against Stipe. That was his scheduled fight. And he got injured, and the fight was postponed to a whole year later. So the distance between March 2023 and November 2024, of course, is a year and a half or so. Is it even more than that? Yeah, it's like a year and 8 months, I think. That's pretty long in between. What happened was the initial fight that was supposed to be Jon versus Stipe in November of 2023 ended up being replaced with Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich for the interim title. And Tom Aspinall won that. That was a whole year ago. Many months later, Jon was still not ready to fight. And so Tom Aspinall had to defend his belt. People talk a lot about this. I've seen a lot of people mention that interim champs should not have to defend the belt. I'm in partial agreement there. The truth of the matter is, I believe it has been done before. Who was it? Was it Tony Ferguson or Justin Gaethje? One of those defended their interim belt when Khabib was not able to come to the USA, I think, during COVID. Hello, it's Future Simon here. I wanted to clarify on that. I don't know where I heard that Gaethje or Ferguson defended the interim belt. I can't find any of that info online. I did find a video saying that there were multiple fighters in the past who defended interim belts. Not recently though. It has happened before. I believe in all of those cases though, they were eventually promoted when the real champ was injured for too long. I haven't done too much research on this, but pretty sure this has happened before. No big deal. Those are different circumstances. Of course, you can't really expect someone to just go wherever they want during COVID. It's different with Jon Jones. Maybe he had more flexibility to fight. Anyways, a little bit of controversy there. And then when he does come back eventually, Jon doesn't fight Tom. He fights Stipe, who doesn't have the interim belt at all. And that's kind of the whole drama of the situation, is that people think that Jon should have fought Tom, and he's been ducking Tom. He's not been mentioning Tom that much in social media. He's continually saying he never wants to fight Tom, even though Tom is the interim champ. That's basically the drama in a nutshell, and I want to discuss more of my thoughts about that. So first of all, do I think that it could be considered ducking for Jon not to have fought Tom this past fight? Should Jon have fought Tom this past fight? In my opinion, look, I mean, the original fight was supposed to be Jon versus Stipe. That was scheduled before. This might be a not popular opinion, but I think that was a scheduled fight. That was what was planned. I honestly don't have a problem that that was followed through with. You have a guy like Stipe who, just because Jon is injured, you're telling me he's not going to fight for the title. Stipe is, you know, a heavyweight legend. Like he's perhaps one of the best heavyweights of all time. In a sense, look, I don't know if he really deserved that fight, but that was a good fight to make originally when it was made. Saying that you're just not going to let Stipe fight against Jon because there's a situation and now there's an interim champ. Look, I'm not saying it's a perfect conclusion, but I do think it makes sense, at least, that Stipe fought Jon this past fight. In my opinion, that's what I see. It makes sense. I don't think that it was unreasonable for that to happen. And I think most people were really happy to see Stipe back in the ring anyway. So what ended up happening this past week, and I guess leading up to it many months before on social media and whatever, Jon Jones beginning to mention how he's never going to fight Tom Aspinall. This is my opinion on that, right? Jon, current heavyweight champion. You have an interim champion, Tom Aspinall. Now that the fight with Stipe is over with, we can't really talk about that anymore. it is presumed that Tom should be fighting Jon to unify the belt, and Jon should be defending that. That, in my mind, makes sense. I think Jon should fight Tom, so long as Jon holds on to the heavyweight title. I think that's the main thing. Personally speaking, I don't really care if he ends up dropping the title or retires. You can consider that to be ducking in a sense, but for me, what should happen when you have an interim champion is the interim champion should fight for the belt. Or if the belt is relinquished, they should be promoted to the total champion. In this case, Jon has not relinquished his belt yet. He has mentioned he doesn't want to fight Aspinall. So there's two ways it can go, right? One is, is there 2 ways or 3 ways? There's 3 ways this can go, in my opinion. One is that Jon relinquishes the belt. In that case, me personally, I think that's fine. I think it makes sense. He mentioned he wants to fight Alex Pereira. Dana White says he does not want that to happen. I don't know what Jon's going to do with that information, obviously. But I think when Jon mentions that the Tom Aspinall fight doesn't make sense for him, for his legacy, like, I kind of get that, you know? Tom, he's a great fighter, but he hasn't proven against top, like, historical people. I think he has proven himself in the sense that he's beaten top 5 guys many times now in under a minute, you know, dude's crazy. But for Jon, that's like a snapshot in history. Jon wants to fight against people who have already cemented themselves over years, right? And Alex Pereira is starting to be that kind of guy. Won 2 belts already, defended his belt like 3 or 4 times. That kind of makes sense. I get if you're upset about that, but that makes sense in a way. Pereira is probably better for his legacy. People mention, okay, Pereira can't wrestle. It's an easy win for Jon. Sure, but when you look back in history, you see Pereira during this time having lost to Jon, during Pereira's, you know, probably fighter of the year, to be honest, doing all those defenses, like 3 or 4 fights this year. That's historically going to go down better, most likely. There's a situation with Tom. Tom's probably a harder fight, probably one of the, if not the best heavyweight right now in the UFC, but it's only a snapshot in history at the moment. Tom could eventually be one of the greats of all time, but he's not there yet. So in my mind, that makes sense. So yeah, Jon could drop the belt and fight whoever he wants. Pereira, if Dana White allows it, right? Second option is that Tom keeps the belt and fights Pereira. For me, this is for sure immoral and ducking. Tom deserves to fight for the belt or to get the belt, in my mind, because he's an interim champ. It's been over a year now. The fight that's been scheduled initially, Jon versus Stipe, is done. Tom is next in line. So in my mind, if Jon keeps the belt and then fights Pereira or somebody else, yes, that's major ducking, and that's wrong. I'm against that personally. Third option is that Jon keeps the belt and fights Tom. Jon has mentioned many times he does not want to fight Tom. However, human beings change their mind all the time. This could happen anyway. Jon did mention in his post-fight interview that he would be considering to give the crowd what they want, or give the people what they want. That could mean Tom. In his mind, that could mean Alex. I'm not sure what he meant by that. He did not mention Tom at all in his post-fight interview, so it's unclear, but that could still happen. I wouldn't put it off the table. To be honest, that's a possibility. In my mind, that's a possibility, and that would be completely fair, because he wouldn't be ducking Tom, he'd be fighting Tom. And that'd be fair for Tom because Tom's next in line. I did see a clip of Jon saying that he would be willing to relinquish the belt and just do super fights for the rest of his career. I've seen that clip. It's only like one clip as far as I've seen. He has not mentioned that too many times. I don't know if that was like a spur of the moment kind of thing that he said, but he has said that. I don't know if people haven't seen that clip. That's fair in my mind. Ultimately though, does that still mean he's ducking? In my mind, ducking means that you're afraid of someone, and that is the reason you're not fighting them. For Jon, I do think he is afraid of Tom. I think that's fine. I think most fighters are going to be afraid going into a fight. That's just normal. But in Jon's case, even though he might be afraid of Tom, I think he legitimately believes that the Pereira fight, or whoever else he wants to fight, is going to be better for him historically. There is less risk on the table for more gain. You know, you fight a guy like Aspinall, high risk, not much gain, even if you win. So that makes sense to me. Yeah, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on if Jon is ducking Tom. I know these might not be super popular opinions, but I want to talk about it. I do think some of what Jon says is making sense, so long as he relinquishes his belt or eats his words and actually fights Tom. That's my opinion. In that scenario, I would say he's not ducking. So yeah, thanks for watching.